Hello everyone, welcome to What If Naruto Was in God of High School and Had Moonlight Sword Part 2, Chapter 5. Konoha Retrieval Team. The current situation looks to be out of a horror movie as bodies littered the battlefield, but among that massacre and river of blood that stained the water, we could see a headband stabbed on the muddy ground, showing the symbol of Kurigakure. The bodies of Yugura loyal shinobi were laid on the ground headless. Some of the bodies were cut in half, others were cut from the waist, and some unlucky souls were stabbed through the throat just from the look in their eyes. Everyone could see that their death was a very painful one, as they looked in horror and pain, as they took their last breath. Those people who suffered such cruel fate were one of Yugura's inner circle, those who had orchestrated the majority of the civil war in Kurigakure. As such, they were given a slow agonizing death. A part of the battlefield was littered with a raging sea of flames that burned everything in its path. Bodies could be found, but due to the intense flames, it was difficult for them to be identified. Some had simply burned to ash. That was what Ao had to witness when he stepped foot on the massacre. His eyes darted everywhere, recognizing some of the dead bodies of former comrades who chose to side with the Yondaime Mizukage. As much as it pained his heart to see people he had one point shared meals and laughs with some of them, he knew that they made their decision, and so did he. He could only thank Naruto for giving them a swift death through decapitation. A voice next to him caught his attention as he looked at his junior Chijuro, who was hunched on the ground, hurling his breakfast on the ground stained with the blood of the shinobi. Ao closed his eyes, pathetic thought Ao, as he watched a boy that was a seven swordsman of the mist in name, but in power he was barely high Chunin level. But what appalled the veteran shinobi was the boy's meek personality. Despite the fact that he should have been exposed to this type of cruelty from a young age, sometimes he could only blame Mei Terumi for coddling the boy too much. That upset Ao harshly as Chijuro looked at his senior with slight fear as he stood up. Look closely Chijuro, this is what the shinobi world is all about. This is no place for weak-hearted shinobi. If you can't get used to it, then by the time this civil war is over, retire from this profession while you still can. Said Ao as Chijuro was shocked by his senior harsh words, before Ao looked at the boy with a frown. I'm not like Lady May, I'm not going to coddle you and tell you that everything is okay, and that our world is sunshine and rainbow, so get your act together and act like one of the seven swordsmen of the mist. Said Ao as Chijuro grit his teeth in frustration. He knew that he was weak, and he can't blame his senpai for being harsh on him, because deep down Ao cared for him in his own ways. Of course Ao senpai, you're right, I'm acting shamefully, which is unbefitting of one who holds the title of the seven swordsmen of the mist. Said Chijuro as Ao's lips twitched into a small smile and his eyes beamed in approval. Splash. Ao looked behind, already recognizing the chakra of the leader of the rebel army Mei Terumi, who was running through the puddle of water and blood with a steely gaze befitting of Kurigakure future Yondaime Mizukage, as she landed next to her two trusted shinobi observing the battlefield but remained impassive even when being exposed to the massacre and seeing familiar faces. Her expression turned into a sigh of relief. It's finally over, said Mei softly, as in the midst of the battlefield was the Yondaime Mizukage Yugura kneeling on the ground in defeat, and Naruto's blade could be seen pressed on his neck. Let's go, you two, said Mei as the two jumped towards Naruto, who looked at the Yondaime Mizukage impassively. As the former Kage was talking, his expression showed guilt, regret and sorrow. It's all that masked man fault who called himself Madara Uchiha. Was the only thing that Mei, Chijuro and Ao heard from the defeated former Mizukage. What's going on? Asked Mei unsure as she looked at the eyes of the former Mizukage, who always remained impassive even when watching many families being killed because of their bloodlines. He was put under a powerful genjutsu that made him someone else's pet. He claimed that the one who had done this was a man claiming himself to be Madara Uchiha with alone Sharingan eyes. Said Naruto as Ao looked shocked before he brought his hand into a one-hand seal as veins started bulging around his right eye that was covered by a black eye patch, showing that he was using the Byakugan eyes that he took from the dead corpse of a main branch. He's telling the truth, I don't know how, but back then Yondaime Sama chakra was unstable, but now his chakra pathway is stable, and his chakra color is blue as opposed to previously when it was tainted blue. Said Ao surprised as his teeth clenched against each other, realizing that the Yondaime was nothing more but a puppet to someone else's whim. Mei kneeled in front of the former Mizukage who had given up on life and could only sympathize with the boy. That's really unfortunate, but tell me this, Yondaime Sama, do you have any information on that man who had put you under a genjutsu? Asked Mei. Regardless of his atrocious act, she had still shown the boy respect. Yugura shook his head. Not much. All I could remember was that he appeared in my office via space-time ninjutsu. He was very strong that all my attacks just merely phased through him. Before I could go three-tail mode on him, I was subdued by his lone eye Sharingan, and Sanbi started to become violent before everything went blank. Said Yugura, frustrated that he had been defeated in such a way. Ongxian that was pressed against the former Mizukage neck disappeared before it found its way back on his waist. I know I am not one to give advices about how other villages should conduct their business, but you should fake his death instead and make him an Anbu bodyguard for the Mizukage. Said Naruto, surprising Ao, Mei, Chijuro and Yugura. Mei remained quiet as she was contemplating the advice. Ao on the other hand was wholeheartedly against this. "I refuse, even if Yondaime-sama was innocent. If our shinobi heard that we let him live will cause a lot of problems," said Ao, trying to rationalize with Mei and Naruto. Igura flinched. "I agree with Ao-san, staying alive will only cause problems in the long run," said Yugura, accepting his death. Naruto let out a sigh. "You need to realize that Kurigakure is currently crippled. You no longer have the 7 swordsmen of the mist because all of them died, with the sole survivor being Kisame Hashigek, who is a rogue shinobi, and Utakata the 6-tailed Jinchuriki is currently a rogue shinobi, with his location being unknown," said Naruto as Ao grit his teeth as he opened his mouth before closing it, unable to form a rebuttal. Mei then smiled. "You're right, Kurigakure is crippled right now, and if we could get Utakata-san to rejoin the protection of Kurigakure, then we could avoid any other hidden village from trying to attack us while we're crippled," said Mei before she looked at Yugura, who seemed to be in turmoil. "I understand how you're feeling, Yondaime-sama," said Mei, but was cut off by Yugura. "Please call me Yugura, I don't deserve to be called by that title anymore," said Yugura as Mei nodded her head in understanding. "Very well, Yugura-san, I am asking you to help protect Kurigakure from the shadows to become my Anbu bodyguard so we could find that man who had plunged his fangs onto Kurigakure and deliver punishment for all the crimes he committed," said Mei as she watched Yugura take a deep breath before he adjusted himself, kneeling in one leg. "I'll follow you wherever you go, Goddess Mizukage," Yugura said, his eyes were burning with determination. "What did I miss?" came the voice of Kiyomi Uchiha, who had just landed to hear the former Kage pledge of loyalty to Mei. Naruto let out a sigh before he explained to Kiyomi what had occurred, and she had an understanding look as she watched Mei go through their village procedures. "We'll have to put a seal on you to change your appearance, because we can't have others find out what had occurred here until everything is properly settled, and then we can announce the truth to the public, but officially you will be presumed dead, but unofficially you're going to be my Anbu bodyguard," said Mei as Yugura nodded his head, finding no reason to argue because he liked it that way. Kiyomi skipped happily towards her boyfriend as Naruto wrapped his arm around her waist as they watched Yugura be given a second chance in life, and in some way Naruto felt proud that he was able to help a brother in need since they both shared the burden of being a Jinchuriki. Although it will be years before Kurigakure could get over those dark times and start heading towards stability. It was months after the civil war had ended, and right now everyone had gathered together to rebuild the village back, and so far everything was getting somewhat normal again, although a lot of people were quite conflicted because after Mei was officially made Goddess Mizukage in front of her people, she announced the truth. A lot of people were conflicted, some had felt sympathy for the previous Kage, another part were still angry with the Yondaime Mizukage, and a large group had remained neutral, unable to pick a side. At the end, people had the decency to attend the Yondaime Mizukage funeral and show him respect while Yugura watched from afar. His appearance had completely changed and his Anbu mask was covering his face with his hair being dyed black in a way to ensure that he doesn't stand out even while being an Anbu. He could only smile at seeing everyone attend his funeral and show him respect even though he didn't deserve it, but that action only ensured and strengthened his loyalty to the village that was robbed from him. Naruto on the other hand had decided to take the Goddess Mizukage offer in staying inside the village for at least a month as the people of Kiri wanted to repay their heroes in some way, so he and Kiyomi were given a hero treatment, and in some ways it felt nice for Naruto, who had only known the look of hatred. Children looked up to him and had taken to learning swordsmanship, with some of them aiming to become one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, which Mei had put a priority in retrieving the national swords of Kurigakure, as some of the hunter ninja were dispatched to retrieve what they could find. Naruto is a very cautious person, something he had learned from his mom, as everything he did showed that he was always on guard. Even when he went to sleep he usually slept while sitting, and his hands dangerously leaning towards his sword, ready to draw it at any moment to eliminate any would-be assassins. But being given a hero treatment inside Kurigakure had a lot of perks, which included being given a room in the best hotel in the village, which included the most expensive room for free obviously. Although Mei had paid the owner so they wouldn't go bankrupt, the point is that he was finally able to relax himself, which was shown by his current clothing as he was shirtless, revealing his well-toned body which displayed a few scars, proving that he got where he is with hard work. Sleeping on his chest was Kiyomi Uchiha, who had taken to using him as her personal body pillow, as her arms were snaked around his waist and her breast was pressing against his chest. Naruto could only sigh as he looked at his girlfriend with a small blush, as over the months they started dating, he had learned one thing about Kiyomi, and that she didn't know the word modesty, because right now her state of clothes is leaning dangerously towards nudity. If he is being brutally honest, he really enjoyed it, and who could blame him? He is still a teenager who finds girls like Kiyomi attractive, and while girls normally would slap you in your face if you leer at them, Kiyomi on the other hand encouraged him to look at her, even going as far as to make a show from undressing, which got him extremely aroused. Kiyomi is also a very straightforward person as she made it abundantly clear through her actions that she gets what she wanted, which was shown when she would kiss him. She would always make sure to run her hand sensually through his body, as if telling him that he was hers and she was his. If Jiraiya was still around, the guy would have already published 2 books just from watching Kiyomi advances, or just died from blood loss, which is a much better alternative than having a smut book based on you and your girlfriend activities that should remain secret. At this point he had long since learned that people like Kiyomi are a different kind of breed. It didn't help that his mother had shared Kiyomi's sentiment because she had as well done that when she had settled down with Dewi. Strong women are extremely territorial and competitive, but the main factor is that they were true warriors. What that meant is that they understood more than anyone that the world they live in is cruel. His mother understood it because she, Dewi, Mori and many more had to fight for their lives to prevent the earth from being destroyed. Kiyomi had also fought for her life as she was exiled from her clan. Her new family in Kurigakure were killed by the Yagura regime, who wanted all bloodline users to die, and her entire clan was massacred by her very own brother Itachi, and currently her other brother Sasuke is walking a path of revenge. So taking that in account, it's easy to understand why it was easy for them to not care about modesty, because they knew that life was short, so doing something you like is much better than trying to actively suppress it, which would later result in regrets. That's why normal girls discriminate on boys' men just for showing interest in the opposite sex, while they themselves were in no position to judge because they themselves are the same, but the difference is that they are bound and chained by society morals, which were forced down their throat from a young age, which is why Naruto had to deal with Sakura, who had took that self-imposed moral to heart. But despite her so-called proper lady attitude, she was just another horny bitch who wanted her chance to gape Sasuke in his sleep. He could still remember the abusive relationship that he shared with his pink-haired teammate who had called him pervert just because he had confessed to her, and the multiple times she had punched him on top of his head. Naruto smiled as he stroked his girlfriend black hair gently. So far he could proudly say that he had a healthy relationship with Kiyomi, no matter how weird to others it may look. Kiyomi groaned slightly in her sleep as her eyes fluttered open to be met with Naruto's smiling face as he stroked her hair gently. "Good morning, honey," said Naruto. Kiyomi smiled as she let out a small yawn before she wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her lips with his in a steamy kiss, which Naruto allowed as he let the girl take control. Separating from the kiss, Kiyomi leaned her forehead with his and smiled. "Good morning, dear," said Kiyomi quite happily as the two couples properly sat up in bed while she immediately straddled him and buried her face into the crook of his neck as she started to suck, bite and kiss his neck. Naruto wrapped his arm around her waist as he let his girlfriend do her own things. Having gotten used to her daily antics of marking him, he didn't know whether it was just some sort of kink that Kiyomi is into or a necessity for her to mark him, which could be the case, given that he was quite popular among the female population. Even the goddamn Mizukage had at one point flirted with him, but to her disappointment she had learned that Naruto was already taken. "You people have some nerve coming here," came the voice of Mei Terumi, the goddamn Mizukage, as her elbows were resting on the desk and her fingers were locked with each other as she glared menacingly at the group of Konoha shinobi who set foot inside her village. Her and I looked at the Mizukage undeterred by the women anger. "We apologize, Lady Mizukage. I hope you understand that one of our shinobi was sighted here and we were ordered by Lady Hokage to bring him back to the village," said Kurenai, but that answer didn't quell the anger inside the goddamn Mizukage. "Regardless of your intentions and orders, trespassing inside my village without prior warning is an insult to me as the current Mizukage," said Mei. Before the other Konoha shinobi could retort, she cut them off. "That's not to mention that I have deep grudge against you Konoha shinobi because I remember asking for your help and had to wait for days until you all had time to hear my plea, which I might add was denied because your village elders convinced your Hokage to refuse our aid," said Mei. At this point she was yelling at the Konoha shinobi who had the gall to act nonchalant around her. "I'll look down on the Konoha shinobi with a sneer. You're getting way over your heads, Konoha shinobi," said Ao as he watched a pink-haired girl walk from the group of Konoha shinobi. Sakura bowed her head. "We greatly apologize, Lady Mizukage. We had no intention to insult you in the first place, but my teammate who was taken as an apprentice by our very own Jiraiya of the Sannin apparently had a falling out and he ran away. We tried to narrow his whereabouts, which a few months ago we learned that he was sighted around Kurigakure, but," said Sakura, her voice turning to shame and guilt. "The elders used their influence to prevent Lady Tsunade from acting and were ordered to wait until the situation here in Kurigakure was resolved so we could finally bring him back to Konoha," said Sakura, hoping to gain some form of understanding from the Mizukage. Raising her head nervously she was met with Mei glare. "Spare me of your sentimental speech. I didn't ask for a backstory, but considering who you're after I won't have my shinobi chase you outside the village because we're in his debt," said Mei as she snapped her finger resulting in Anbu to appear in front of her. "Bring Naruto you to my office," said Mei before she added once more. "Tell him that it's important," continued Mei as the Anbu teleported out of the office intending to find Naruto. Thank you Lady Mizukage, said Kurenai as Team 9, Team 10, Team 8 were relieved. Be grateful that I'm willing to listen and not give you the same treatment your village gave me, said Mei, obviously annoyed, but it reined her anger enough to maintain a rational thought. Naruto was walking around the village, his right arm was already locked with Kiyomi's left arm as she pointed at every shop that piqued her attention. Look at that vase, it's really beautiful, said Kiyomi as she looked at an antique shop. They obviously haven't bought anything since Kiyomi. Despite her attitude, she wasn't a materialistic person, she only bought what she would need. Naruto and Kiyomi's senses alerted them of a chakra being built up behind them as they calmly looked as Akiri Anbu appeared in a kneeling position. I apologize Naruto-sama and Kiyomi-sama for interrupting your date, but Lady Mizukage had requested Naruto-sama to her office, she had expressed that it was important, said the Kiri Anbu as Naruto let out a sigh. We're going, said Kiyomi, and the Anbu nodded, finding no reason to retort as he vanished the same way he came. I better hope this isn't another attempt of her flirting with you, said Kiyomi menacingly. Naruto's sweat dropped but decided not to waste time. Let's go, I doubt that this is one of her attempts at flirting, said Naruto as the two bodies flickered towards the Mizukage mansion. Sakura was very excited as she eagerly stood in front of the office door, waiting to be reunited with her teammate, but it seemed she wasn't the only one who felt excitement from the prospect of reuniting with their favorite blonde more like the former blonde. Such feelings were made obvious with Hinata's constant fidgeting, her blush that was dusting her cheeks as her breathing increased in excitement, waiting to see her long-time crush walk through the door. Shino seemed to be expressionless as he always was, but his bugs were buzzing, expressing that Shino was also excited. Kiba was grinning, ready to see his self-proclaimed rival walk through the door. Rock Lee and Might Guy were the most vocal out of the group of Konoha shinobi as they shouted all sorts of declarations about youth, much to Mei's annoyance and traumatized Chijuro, who at this point had his eyes covered by Mei, who wanted to protect his innocence. Tenten and Niji looked at the two quite embarrassed by their Jounin sensei and teammate antics, but were obviously more excited to see Naruto, with Niji being the most excited, having been saved by Naruto and taught an important lesson about life and fighting for one's dream. Ino was blushing and trying to make sure that she was well dressed, as seeing Naruto's picture made her determined to get him before Hinata did, much to the latter annoyance. Shikamaru's back was hunched, his eyes half opened as he lazily looked at the door, but his eyes showed excitement and curiosity. Toji was munching happily into his chips as he thought about sharing his bag of chips with Naruto once he saw him. The Jonins that came with their students had their own reaction aside from Guy's shouts of youths. Kurenai had an impassive look, but everyone knew that she had a hint of curiosity and a hint of respect. Asuma was taking a drag from his cigarette, but even he was curious and slightly excited to see how far Naruto had grown. Kakashi, on the other hand, was experiencing multiple emotion at the same time. While he had a nonchalant look on his face, his stance was rigid, as ever since Sasuke's defection from the village he had time to re-evaluate his choices that he made over the years, more so his decision when it came to Team 7. Believe it or not, he had loved Naruto as a brother, since the boy was the legacy of the Yondaime Hokage, who was his Jounin sensei, as well as a father figure for a great portion of his childhood, but he was conflicted because it so happened that Sasuke was the last of the Uchiha clan, so he felt the need to pay a debt to his friend Obito Uchiha. Instead of training Team 7 equally, he had shown more interest in Sasuke's development. Maybe it was because Sasuke had an unstable mind and he wanted to show him the wonder of friendship and teamwork that was taught to him by Obito Uchiha, so the boy could return to the correct path and stir away from the destructive and suicidal path that he was undoubtedly walking into. Although his biggest regret in life was teaching Sasuke the air rank assassination jutsu Chidori, which happened to be his own personal jutsu that he created based on the Rasengan, and even when he instructed the boy to not use the jutsu on a comrade of the leaf, he ended up using it, and what's worse, Naruto was not just some regular comrade, but a teammate and a friend, which was a massive blow to his stomach and had questioned multiple times his teaching capabilities. Naruto may not be a natural-born prodigy like his father, but he had already acknowledged that the boy was a genius of hard work, who increasingly got stronger each passing day, which is why Sasuke was always jealous of Naruto, because even with the boy private coaching that he received from a very young age, his growth was slow compared to the dead last of the academy. Now he is going to see his students after 2 years, and he wanted this time around to properly guide him like he should have done years ago. He owes that much to his sensei for everything he had done for him. A gentle knock was heard before the door of the Mizukage office opened, slowly revealing Naruto. The moment his foot stepped inside the office, the Konoha shinobi felt a sense of fear, as the Jounin senseis felt their senses that they honed over the course of years, screaming to them to run away. Akamaru started to whimper as it ran, cowering behind his master Kiba Inuzuka, who got terrified by his Ninken odd reaction. Shino bugs were buzzing in fear as they warned Shino of the danger that stood in front of them. Naruto looked at the Konoha shinobi impassively. So Konoha misses me so much that they would send 3 teams, 4 Jounins and a former teammate, said Naruto. Chapter 6. Road to Konoha. Naruto was rather annoyed to say the least, as he watched the Konoha team that was sent to retrieve him. Looking at what used to be Konoha 11, he could see that they all had grown up from the last time he saw them, and from the looks of it, both Shikamaru and Neji were the only chunin among their generation. The room remained quiet as the Konoha team felt awkward and nervous, unable to form coherent words. "Naruto-kun, your aura is leaking out," said Kiyomi nonchalantly as she walked inside the office, as Naruto realized that he was indeed scaring them with his aura before he decided to rain his aura. Feeling the pressure of Naruto's aura dissipate, everyone could finally take a deep breath as Akamaru calmed down but remained wary. Kiyomi then eyes darted towards Konoha 11 with curiosity before her eyes landed on Ino and Hinata, who were both eyeing her boyfriend, and decided to make a point that he was taken. "By Naruto-kun, that was very hexy of you," said Kiyomi, as everyone turned towards Kiyomi, who pulled Naruto by the collar, kissing him right on the lips, making sure to make a show in front of the Konoha shinobi by making out with Naruto, who mind you didn't resist and kissed back. Neji, Kiba, Shino and Kurenai turned nervously towards Hinata, who for the lack of better words, was completely devastated. Her eyes brimmed with tears as she saw the boy she had a crush on from her childhood days simply being taken away by somebody else. It was not simply fair, she had loved Naruto for much longer, and everyone knew that, which is why nobody really approached him with the intention to start a relationship, because they took her feelings into consideration. Contrary to popular beliefs, Naruto was cute in female standards, which was made obvious in the Chunin exam when he defeated the prodigy Neji Hyuga. Hinata was heartbroken as all her dreams of starting a future with Naruto was thrown to the wind, and she had herself to blame for this. She was quite shy and got comfortable that nobody will try to take a shot at Naruto, and that she could take as many years to prepare herself mentally and physically to eventually coming out with her feelings to Naruto, but she paid the price dearly. "Who the hell are you?" asked Ino rudely, basically asking the question that was on everyone's mind as Kiyomi separated from the kiss, quite annoyed by the Platinum Girl's rude attitude. "I'm Kiyomi Uchiha and Naruto-kun's girlfriend," said Kiyomi, shocking everyone in the room, but more so Sakura and Kakashi, with Sakura looking hopeful that Sasuke could return to the village if he learned that a family was inside the village. "An Uchiha? Why didn't we know about this?" asked Asuma, his mind drifting towards his father and wondering if his father knew about her. "What is your relationship with Sasuke Uchiha?" Kurenai asked, giving Kiyomi a critical eye, although she didn't see the stuck-up attitude that she had known the Uchiha for. "He's my twin brother," said Kiyomi bluntly, seeing Hinata frown, and Kiba was pretty much eyeing her like a candy, but had to divert his eyes when he met Naruto's murderous gaze that threatened to castrate his family jewels. Troublesome came the voice of Shikamaru, whose posture straightened up. "The mission perimeter was to bring Naruto back to the village, but this was an unknown variable that we never took into account. I doubt the elders and civilian council will drop a chance to have an Uchiha inside the village," said Shikamaru, although he didn't have quite high regard towards the civilian council and elders. I coughed in his hand. He may be a goofball and eccentric, but he knows when the situation needs to be taken seriously. "I believe we should get to the point in why we came here. I doubt Lady Mizukage has the entire day for us. We need to make this quick," said Guy as everyone looked at the rather irritated Mei. "So the eccentric one is the most aware of his surroundings. I expected more from the rest of you," said Mei annoyed. "Except Naruto-kun, of course," said Mei, her expressions changing once more to a flirting one, much to Kiyomi annoyance and Kakashi approval of his student. "We apologize, Lady Mizukage. To get to the point, we were sent to retrieve you, Naruto-kun. We understand that you wanted to continue the 3 years training trip like it was originally planned, but with you leaving Jiraiya-sama protection, you also left Konoha protection, which the elders couldn't let it simply slide," said Kakashi as he looked at Naruto, who frowned at the old fossil's interference. "I hope you could cooperate with us, Naruto-san. Hokage-sama had a hard time convincing them to have you go outside the village walls for a 3 years training trip with Jiraiya-sama, which I might add had explained that you have grown distant until you left him," said Kurenai. Naruto scowled slightly but remained impassive as he made a mental link with his mother. "Should I beat them all up or go with them?" asked Naruto as he could see his mother's grin. "As much as it would be enjoyable to see you beating someone up, it wouldn't do good since you're planning to return to the village. Besides, I believe you've gained enough experience as it is." Mira stated her own opinion on the subject. Cutting the mental link, Naruto looked at the nervous group of Konoha wanting to hear his decision. They would have been confident if Naruto was still the same as he was 3 years ago, but he had grown smarter and less trusting as opposed to before, where he trusted everybody who smiled at him. "Besides, aren't you excited to be a team again, Naruto-kun?" asked Sakura. She might have been abusive, but she had supported Naruto and had stood up for him multiple times. That includes the Forest of Death when Sasuke acted like a coward. Naruto looked at Sakura blankly. "Not really," said Naruto bluntly, and Sakura's expression turned to shock and hurt. "We only tolerated each other because none of us were willing to go back another year at the academy," continued Naruto as he looked at Kakashi, who simply flinched. I'm returning, Naruto said, making everyone happy but Sakura, Kakashi and Hinata expression was sour because of their own respective problems. Turning towards the current Gade Mizukage, he bowed to her, which Kiyomi followed behind him. We thank you, Mei-san, for the hospitality. If Kurigakure is ever in need of help, come see me, and I will help regardless of Konoha wishes," said Naruto respectfully. Mei properly stood up from her seat as she hugged Naruto, bringing his face to her bosom before she took her chance to place a kiss on his cheeks, although it was too close for comfort. Luckily, Kiyomi had decided that the older women deserved some sort of leeway since they won't be seeing each other for a long time. "It's okay, Naruto-kun, I would have loved to have you as my shinobi, but I understand that you're Konoha shinobi, and I would definitely ask you for help if we ever find ourselves in a pinch. Hopefully our next meeting will be as cages of our respective village," said Mei as Naruto nodded with a smile that he rarely shows to anyone, making Mei almost have a heart attack from the smile. She then went to Kiyomi, hugging the girl, and while they had some sort of rivalry over Naruto, it was obvious that the two had mutual respect for each other. "You're a very lucky girl, Kiyomi-chan, I look forward to seeing you grow," said Mei as Kiyomi grinned. "Same, Mei-chan, I also look forward to attending your wedding," said Kiyomi teasingly, much to Mei's embarrassment and our fearful look when the word wedding was mentioned. After all, it was common fact that Mei wanted to get married before she go way past her prime, and whenever he mentioned anything about her age, she would threaten to kill him. Kurigakure were very sad that their heroes were leaving their village, but could only stand at the gates to give them a proper farewell. The Konoha retrieval team watched in fascination as everyone in the village bidded their heroes goodbye. Just like his mother, Naruto was very attached to the children of the village, having taken time to make sure that they were all happy. Right now Naruto was kneeling in front of two children that were crying. The crying girl was a 12-year-old petite young girl with a pale complexion and large, compound-like eyes that lack pupils, only a haze of gradient purple, making her eyes appear similar to those of insects. She has shoulder-length wavy hair that fades from black into dark purple, usually styled at the back of her head into a flat yakai maki bun, fastened with a white and purple butterfly ornament. She has center-split, ear-length, voluminous curtain bangs that flow down to frame the sides of her face, with two slightly thinner chin-length locks of hair in front of her ears below them. Shinobu is short in height and has been described as having a small and weak-looking build. The second boy was Giyu Tomioka, a 12-year-old tall young boy of a slight muscular stature and pale complexion, who due to his traumatizing childhood is almost always seen wearing a serious and emotionless expression. He has unruly black hair of uneven lengths that sticks up in tufts around his head, which he wears tied back in a low messy ponytail at the base of his neck. His bangs fall over his eyes in an uneven fringe. His eyes are sharp and moderately large, their eyes is a deep sapphire that fades to a lighter blue, and their pupils a bluish black, and are framed by thin eyebrows. Naruto had the two children in his arms, hugging them as they released their emotion of sadness. "Sensei, please stay with us," said Shinobu, crying, but she knew she couldn't do anything. "You don't need to cry, I will always be watching over the two of you and the others, besides I promise to come visit you too," said Naruto as the two children started calming down slightly, but they were sniffing loudly. "Besides, did you really think I would leave without at least giving my two protege a gift?" said Naruto, as the two children looked at their sensei with shock at being recognized as his protege, but quickly got excited. Naruto then pulled two swords sheathed properly before he brought a katana, handing it towards Shinobi, who carried it. "This is Stinger, it's a Nichiren katana modified specifically for you, and since you have taken interest in medical jutsu and poison, the katana was made to be coated with poison. Right now it's just a normal katana," said Naruto as Shinobu jumped happily as she hugged Naruto tightly. "Thank you, sensei, I will cherish it," said Shinobu excitedly. Bringing the other katana, he handed it to Giyu, who took it gently. "The katana doesn't have a name, but if you unsheath the katana you will see engraved on the katana the words 'Destroy Demons.' I know that the 7 swordsmen of the mist consisted of mostly brutes and people who called themselves demons, so I made sure to have it engraved," said Naruto as Giyu smiled, remembering his deceased friend that was killed by one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. "Thank you, sensei, I will cherish this forever and become a powerful swordsman," said Giyu with determination as Naruto ruffled the boy's hair, who simply hugged Naruto with Shinobu joining as well for one last time. "I want you both to stay true to yourselves and follow your own path by becoming strong swordsmen, swordswomen, and it's time I tell you the same thing my mom told me when I first learned my clan sword style. Using your own techniques will make your play out as you wish. That is the secret of my sword style. And you should do the same and know that I will always be proud of you, no matter how short our time was," said Naruto as the two 12-years burst into tears once more and promised to become strong. Kakashi watched the scene and turned around, his eyes brimming with tears as the more he looked at Naruto interacting with the two children, the more he was reminded of his Jounin sensei and father figure Minato. "Your son has grown, Minato sensei," and all on his own, thought Kakashi. A hand was gently placed on his shoulder to see his best friend Guy, giving him a reassuring look. Neji watched Naruto and could see his father's image overlapping on Naruto and his own image overlapping on the two children, and he could only shed a tear. Father, is that what you felt? Would you be proud of the kind of man that I become? Thought Neji, being comforted by Tenten. Lee was oddly quiet as he watched the scene unfolding in front of him. His own image was overlapping with the two children, and Guy's image was overlapping Naruto. Naruto-kun, you're just like Guy-sensei, always so kind and helpful to others who need help, thought Lee. Hinata on the other hand admired Naruto, but at the same time envied the two children that were smothered with love and support, something her father had never once shown her. You're going to become a shinobi, the clan heiress needs to be strong, not a meek child. Was the harsh voice of Hiashi Hyuga as he channeled chakra through his palm as he struck his daughter, sending her flying in the ground coughing blood. Pathetic, the Hyuga clan is left at the hands of a weak child. Our reputation as the strongest clan in Konoha is at stake at this point. Your own younger sister Hanabi will be much suitable heiress than you, said Hiashi with a frown as he turned around and walked away, disregarding the emotionally and physically hurt Hinata. Hinata coughed blood as she lay defeated on the ground, her own younger sister Hanabi towering over her with a menacing glare, which made it even more scarier. When her Byakugan was activated, her palm was positioned to strike her in the vital spot, which was the heart. Father was right. You really are pathetic, big sister. I guess I'm the one who will have to lead the Hyuga clan to prosperity, since you're not suited for it, said Hanabi, harshly disregarding Hinata, brimming tears as just like her father, her own younger and innocent sister turned her back towards her, essentially giving her the cold shoulder. She wasn't given a choice on how to live her life. It was either become a strong heiress or be sent to the academy to become a shinobi, which is basically her second chance at redeeming herself and regaining her title as the heiress, or lastly be branded with the caged bird seal and become a slave for the main branch destined to serve. Sakura on the other hand was very conflicted. Part of her felt immense pride towards her teammate for finally maturing by moving past the phase of childish mentality, and part of her felt herself falling in love with Naruto, but Kiyomi had already claimed him, but most importantly she felt hurt as Naruto wasn't as excited to see her as she was to see him and his response to her when she expressed excitement on becoming a team again. Overall, it took 2 hours before they were able to finally walk out of the village after everyone had been able to express their gratitude towards their heroes. Kakashi, being the most experienced jonin in the field compared to his fellow jonin sensei, was assigned as the leader to ensure that they would return to the Leaf safely. We're going to take a formation to ensure that we could return to Konoha safely. Team 8 is our ears, eyes, nose, which means that they will ensure that nothing surprise us. Team 9 and Sakura is the assault team. If we were to encounter an enemy, they will be the main hitters. Team 10 will be our support team, said Kakashi, trying to explain the rules before his eyes scanned towards the group to see Naruto and Kiyomi missing. Looking behind him, he saw Naruto and Kiyomi walking away, something which was noticed by the group, and a lot of them seemed to get annoyed by Naruto behavior. Naruto, what the hell do you think you're doing? Shouted Sakura furiously. Naruto looked behind him to see his furious teammate, but he simply disregarded her. I don't care what you do, this isn't my business. I already know this place like the back of my hand, and I've survived on my own for the most part, said Naruto before he continued walking. We're not trying to underestimate your capabilities, but don't be arrogant, we don't know the kind of enemy that could come after you, said Kurenai, trying to reason with the white-haired boy. I'm not arrogant, nor am I overestimating myself. My mom had already took it upon herself to ensure that I don't get way over my head. Besides, when I said that this wasn't my business, I meant that you all don't have enough data about me to try and include me in your little formation. I advise you all to stop seeing me as Naruto Uzumaki, but rather as Naruto U, the 26th master of the Moonlight Sword style, said Naruto, taking pride when mentioning his mother's name and his clan sword style, which didn't go unnoticed by the others. He's right, said Neji, grabbing everyone's attention as they looked at the Hyuga prodigy. Even Naruto has his own pride. We can't just insult him by already assuming his skill level. Besides, we all know that he had contributed to the rebel army victory over Yugura forces. Not to mention he defeated said Mizukage in battle without so much as a scratch. He's way beyond us, and Jiraiya-sama should have already told us that in the mission debriefing, said Neji as he opened his eyes to look at the shocked expression of the Konoha contingent but could see the pride in his sensei eyes. Flashback. Teams 7, 8, 9 and 10 were called to the Hokage office along with their respective jonin sensei. It was quite obvious that they were confused on what could have resulted in all of Konoha 11 to be called so suddenly, but Sakura had an inkling of hope that the topic of the meeting would be about her teammate Naruto. Standing in front of the goddamn Hokage, they could see that the situation was serious as Jiraiya himself was comfortable sitting in the open window. It may sound nothing, but Jiraiya was simply ensuring that nobody could simply eavesdrop on their conversation. Do you know why you're all called here? Asked Tsunade, hoping to see who has an idea on what the topic of today's meeting is about, and her eyes finally rested on Sakura, who slightly gulped. Is it about Naruto-kun? Asked Sakura in a hopeful tone as everyone looked at her in surprise, having seen the bingo book and briefed on the subject beforehand. Yes, the rebel army had an overwhelming victory over Yagura forces. Their casualties were much lower than what was expected, but the credit goes for Naruto, who had single-handedly eliminated several battalions on his own while defeating the Mizukage, who mind you was using his three-tailed mode while coming out unharmed. Said Tsunade. Despite having heard about her godson accomplishment, she still had a hard time swallowing the information. Kakashi, who had his Icha paradise out, was taken aback by this as he quickly put the book away. "Are you sure that this is Naruto-kun, Lady Hokage?" asked Kakashi in a disbelieving tone, much to her ire. "Do you think I will just say something as ludicrous as this without at least checking my sources twice and thrice?" said Tsunade, feeling slightly offended as Kakashi panicked slightly. "I didn't mean any harm to you, Lady Hokage. I guess I'm surprised by how much he had grown," said Kakashi, trying to explain that this was more of a harmless question. "SOD does T that mean WEG get to our retrieve and Naruto-kun be back?" Hinata asked, obviously stuttering once more after hearing her crush's name after almost 2 years, but at the same time she couldn't help the excitement. "That is correct," said Jiraiya, still remaining perched on the window. "We're hoping that as his friends you would convince him to return, because at this point I'm afraid that if another team was sent to retrieve him, they might not see another day," said Jiraiya grimly as everyone looked shocked. "That's Naruto we're talking about. He might have changed, but he is still the same lovable hyperactive blonde that we know," said Kiba enthusiastically. Obviously his brashness made him unable to take the situation seriously. Neji pinched the bridge of his nose in annoyance as he looked at Shino. "You're wrong, Kiba-san," said Shino, simply as Kiba looked confused at Shino, who seemed to maintain a stoic expression on his face. "If we talk from a logical standpoint, war changes anyone, even the most battle-hardened warriors would find themselves facing their own problems, which in most cases results in trauma that varies depending on the situation," said Shino calmly, seeing Kiba growling at him. "We all changed over the 2 years after Sasuke's defection, as most of us had grown way past our childish phase and started to take our careers seriously after simply having a taste of the real world, and Naruto-san was in the middle of a civil war that has been raging for a few years now, so I doubt that he wouldn't have changed," said Shino, feeling satisfied when he saw Kiba open his mouth, then close it, unable to retort. "So what should we expect?" asked Shikamaru, finding the whole thing too troublesome and wanted to get straight to the point. "Right now, from Jiraiya's intel, we learned that the goddamn Mizukage Mei Terumi, former leader of the rebel army, had managed to convince him to stay inside the village, as a lot of people wanted to properly repay their hero for his deed," said Tsunade, although everyone could hear the hint of pride in her voice, yet she also felt annoyance. Kurenai narrowed her eyes. "Are you implying that the goddamn Mizukage might be trying to convince Naruto-san indirectly of joining their village military?" asked Kurenai as both nodded grimly. "That's a possibility that we took into account," said Jiraiya as he watched some of the genin about to retort, but he put a stop to it. "I understand that some of you believe in Naruto, which I greatly appreciate, but at this point, Naruto is a valuable asset to them that is still shrouded with mystery, because so far the civil war has ended with less casualty on the side of the rebel army, and those who witnessed him fight realized that he had never once put effort into his battles, because the whole civil war was one giant joke to him. Maybe a street quarrel could better describe the entire situation," said Jiraiya, shuddering as he remembered one of his spies in Kurigakure expression when he delivered to him the message. "Did Naruto-kun really change that much?" asked Ino fearfully as she looked at Jiraiya, who seemed to nod his head grimly. "He's already made a name for himself around the elemental nation. His first alias is Saint because to the rebel army and the children he was their savior, the one who offered them salvation in their most dire moments," said Jiraiya, and everyone was alarmed. "To think that the kid who nobody took seriously would have such a deep impact on the world," said Asuma, quite astonished. "What about his other alias?" asked Kakashi, quite intrigued but slightly terrified. Jiraiya nodded his head. To his enemies, Naruto was akin to an executioner, which is why he earned the moniker Executioner, because he didn't kill just randomly, but after observing the bodies, everyone realized that the ones who were part of Yagura inner circle were given a slow, painful death, mostly have them bleed out to death. People said that it's in death door that you reflect the most about your life choices. Those who were not part of Yagura inner circle were mostly given swift death through decapitation or any other means to end someone's life painlessly," said Jiraiya, and the room went dead silent. "Ah, great, now you want to send us to retrieve him. This got way too troublesome," said Shikamaru. The whole situation terrified him that he wanted to simply back away from it. Neji scowled at the lazy Chunin. "Regardless of his changes, Naruto is still our friend, and if you simply want to back off from the mission, then so be it, but I owe a lot to Naruto and want to properly show him how much I have grown as well," said Neji as Lee's eyes sparkled in amazement at seeing his stoic teammate being so passionate about someone else, and Guy was grinning madly. "You've finally found your eternal rival, Neji-kun. You truly embody the spirit of youth," shouted Guy loudly by his eccentric ways, while Creepy had managed to lighten the mood around the office. "If Neji-kun had named Naruto-kun his eternal rival, then he is also my eternal rival," said Lee as Neji tried to come up with a retort to defend his pride as a Hyuga, but he had signed his death warrant as Guy started letting loose his youthful years that soaked the ground with Lee following suit, and what followed next was a forbidden genjutsu that was so effective that it was used in the T&I department when they wanted to be a little sadistic with someone. Hinata looked in horror as the two green jumpsuits collided with each other and rubbed against each other in the most horrific way imaginable, but what made it even worse was the sudden appearance of a beach in the sunset. Poor Hinata vision started to get blurry and then fainted as Kurenai could only shout Hinata's name worried about her daughter mental health. End of flashback. I guess we're still getting used to your changes, said Tenten nervously as Naruto gave her a small nod of understanding as he continued walking with the Konoha contingent performing their given task of creating their team formation. The whole trip was awkward to say the least as many wanted to talk with Naruto, but his cold exterior made it difficult for him to be approached, and given that Kiyomi, for the lack of better term, was hogging him for herself, made it even more difficult. So Naruto-kun, how do you feel about the whole civil war in Kurigakure? It must have been hard having to kill like that, said Kakashi trying to be there for his student, but Naruto didn't care. The civil war was boring and no, I didn't have a hard time killing, said Naruto bluntly, shocking everyone as Sakura frowned. How could you? Don't you at least feel bad for having to kill? Those people have families, said Sakura, shocked and angry that her teammate is so uncaring and cold. What about the rebel army, Sakura? Don't they also have their own family that were enslaved and in some cases killed by Yagura and his regime? If every time I kill someone I would start feeling bad, then I would rather retire from the shinobi life and save myself from drowning in guilt, said Naruto coldly as he glared at Sakura, who flinched. Don't compare me to you, Sakura. I'm not an idealist who claims that he could save everyone or change people by simply trying to negotiate with them with words. They made their choice, and I made my choice, said Naruto. He's right, said Kiyomi as she looked at Sakura with a slight disappointing look. This world is all about survival of the fittest. If you can't kill your heart and do what you must, then you won't survive past the age of 20. A sheltered girl like you who didn't experience a true civil war shouldn't talk about something they have no idea about because you didn't live here nor know about Kurigakure situation under the Yonde Mizukage reign, said Kiyomi as Sakura shrank in fear. Sorry, said Sakura nervously as Kakashi gave her a small look of understanding. Don't you think you were a little harsh on her, said Ino scowling at Kiyomi. If she didn't like to hear the truth then she shouldn't have criticized Naruto-kun. The only reason why Naruto-kun never had problems with killing was because his mom had been making sure to prepare him for his eventual first kill, something which Konoha and your own family neglected to teach you when you chose to become shinobi, said Kiyomi glaring at Ino, who shrunk. I hope I'm not overstepping my boundaries, but I had the impression that you were an orphan, said Kurenai as she looked at Naruto, who contemplated whether to talk or not. Technically speaking, she is not my blood mother, but it's undeniable that we're both related by blood, and since she was the one who made me who I am today, so she quickly became my mother, said Naruto as everyone was surprised. Wow, she must be really strong to have made you into an S-rank shinobi, said Asuma as he took a puff of his smoke. I still have a lot to learn. At my current condition, I wouldn't be able to make her bleed, maybe leave a scratch, but that's as far as I could hurt her, said Naruto, scaring everyone as Kiba almost tripped while jumping on the trees. How powerful is your mother? Asked Kiba, terrified that someone would be that powerful. Naruto looked at Kiba before looking in front of him. She could conquer an entire country on her own without breaking a sweat, and if she felt like it the entire elemental nation would fall, said Naruto, scaring them even more. Don't you think you're overestimating your mother's ability? Asked Kakashi, nervous as Naruto sighed. Mom is one of the reasons why the Kyuubi haven't tried to take over my body or manipulate me, because she had made sure to beat it into his skull that if he harmed me, she would make sure to wipe him out. Ever since then he had never tried to establish contact. The last time I saw him he was eaten into a bloody pulp, said Naruto as everyone froze. Then why didn't she just kill the Kyuubi if she was that strong? Asked Hinata as she nervously fiddled with her fingers. Because she didn't have a reason to kill him. Besides, we couldn't blame him for being violent. After all, you people continuously treated him and the other Biju as weapons for your selfish wars, said Naruto, taking everyone except Kiyomi off guard. Take the Hyuga clan for example. They went to extreme lengths to place the caged bird seal on their branch family to protect the Byakugan from falling into other people's hands, and we don't need to get that far since the Hyuga affair is a prime example, said Naruto, seeing both Neji and Hinata flinch. People simply expect the Bijus to simply accept being sealed inside a human and hand their power willingly. People can justify and say that power like that shouldn't be left unchecked, but let's face it, humans have abused this power in order to further their own selfish gains, said Naruto as everyone remained quiet, because when you look at it from this angle, nobody could really deny that the Kyuubi anger was justified. Anybody would lose their shit if they were told to hand their own power to others. Your words hold a lot of truth, said Shino, agreeing that what Naruto had said was simply pure logic. Let's talk about something else like your relationship. Asked Ino, trying to change the subject into a more comfortable one, but forget about Hinata. Kiyomi lips twitched into a smirk. Oh, so you want to know, but I have to warn you it's at least 18 plus in nudity. Said Kiyomi, seeing as Kakashi started to giggle and nodded his head, Asuma was nervous and Kurenai was taken aback. Kiyomi please don't, said Naruto a little embarrassed, but Kiyomi grinned as she grabbed him by his pants. Why not, after all you enjoyed my advances, especially when I sleep in nude, specifically when I press my breast on you. Said Kiyomi mischievously as she groped one of her breasts as Naruto remembered and had a trickle of blood leave his nose. Kakashi on the other hand had a massive nosebleed along with Kiba. The other boys had tried to keep some form of dignity, but a blush was evident on their faces. Hinata had groped her own breast trying to compare her size with Kiyomi while displaying jealousy. Tenten looked at Niji before looking at her own breast in slight frustration. Ino had a trickle of blood running down her nose and a feeling of envy. Sakura blushed hard seeing the explicit scene being displayed in front of her and tried to imagine herself and Sasuke being that intimate. Kurenai on the other hand felt appalled by Kiyomi's attitude that reminded her so much of her friend Anko Mitarashi. Fukuku, so Naruto-kun is heading back to Konoha. That will be a problem, said Orochimaru of the Sannin. His health has been slowly deteriorating and needed his vessel Sasuke Uchiha to be in top shape so he can use the living corpse reincarnation and finally achieve his dream of learning all jutsus in the world and make scientific discoveries. He was currently sitting in what appeared to be a makeshift throne made out of strong materials as he looked at his right-hand man Kabuto Yakushi. His equally cunning subordinate was in a kneeling position as he looked at his superior with a calm exterior, showing no concern at all, but Orochimaru knew better because Kabuto's heartbeat had increased, showing that his right-hand man was concerned and afraid. He couldn't fault him for feeling such an emotion after all. The former blonde boy was nothing more than a nuisance back when he was still a fresh genin out of the academy, but even then he had underestimated the boy, as despite his obnoxious personality and naivety, he had a lot of untapped potential, as his growth was much better than Sasuke himself, but he only viewed this as his former teammate. Jiraiya training. That is why when he took Sasuke under his wing, he was confident that with his guidance, Sasuke will surpass Naruto and any shinobi in the elemental nation. After all, the boy had the Uchiha blood running through his veins. He was simply born to live in this world as a king, and he wanted that power for himself. Pathetic Kabuto, you're scared of that dope, said Sasuke as he silently came out of the shadow, having successfully masked his own presence, but both occupants of the rooms were not your regular shinobi and had already sensed the boy. Kabuto clenched his teeth. After 2 years, he had developed a major dislike for the Uchiha arrogance. He simply tolerated the boy since he was Orochimaru's vessel. As such, he could endure tolerating him until the ritual. He couldn't fail Orochimaru after all, just a few months, and the smug brat will be history. Kabuto's lips twitched into an amused smirk as he looked at the infuriating eyes of the Uchiha, who had grown splendidly, but at his current level, he was nothing more but an ant compared to an alpha shinobi of Naruto's caliber. Look at you, Sasuke-kun, talking such big words. How I admire your confidence. Too bad, Naruto-kun is in a league on his own at this point. You're weak, said Kabuto, seeing Sasuke's eyes violently flaring into his 3-tomo Sharingan, his hand violently twitching towards his Kusanagi. If I have to give an honest assessment between you two, I'd bet my money on Naruto-kun. After all, this won't be a fight, but more like a one-sided annihilation. Said Kabuto, letting out an amused chuckle as he looked at the angry Uchiha. I will wipe that smirk off your face, Kabuto, said Sasuke as he pulled Kusanagi, already going through the hand signs to coat his sword with lighting, but a hand gripped Sasuke's wrist, stopping him. Sasuke looked angrily at the perpetrator to reveal Orochimaru, who was calm. That's enough, Sasuke-kun. This was an unexpected variable that we didn't take into account, but as you are right now you're extremely weak. Well, you were training by fighting cannon fodders. Naruto-kun fought and ended Karigakur's civil war on his own and defeated the Yonde Mizukage, who I might add was using his Biju Chakra cloak. Said Orochimaru as Sasuke grit his teeth before he violently removed his hand from Orochimaru's hold and walked towards the training ground. Aren't you going to tell him? Asked Kabuto as he narrowed his eyes at Orochimaru, who seemed to be amused knowing exactly what was running through his subordinate head. No, Sasuke-kun should never learn that he has a relative out there alive. If that were to happen, he will probably leave me for her, and I can't allow that to happen. Said Orochimaru, frowning, having not known that there was another Uchiha other than Sasuke and Itachi. Kabuto nodded his head but couldn't help the small smirk. I wonder how Sasuke-kun will react once he learns that his own relative is in a relationship with Naruto-kun. Said Kabuto, knowing how much Sasuke loathed Naruto and learning that his relative is involved in a relationship with Naruto would probably make for good entertainment. Orochimaru let out a chuckle. I do admit that would make for a good show, but for now I want you to keep an eye on Naruto-kun, including that female Uchiha. Any information on her would be useful, and report to me on anything that proves to be important. said Orochimaru as he watched in satisfaction as his right-hand man nodded his head before he decided that he had exhausted his vessel that he is residing in and decided to walk towards his room for further rest. Chapter 7. Wave and flashback. Inside a dark room we could see a giant earthen-colored humanoid entity with a mummified appearance, a body shaped similar to a robe, and a number of spike-like protrusions on its back. Its height towered even the tailed beasts. The statue has 9 eyes the size of an adult man, which usually remain closed. The statue's wrists and ankles are usually bound by shackles, and it bites down on a scroll, which is held in place by 2 ropes extending from beneath its blindfold on either side of its head. On the fingers of the intimidating statue was a holographic of the Akatsuki members, as those fingers glowed green with a symbol written inside, which represents every single Akatsuki member who wore their member ring. The leader of the Akatsuki was a medium-length spiky orange hair, both his eyes bore the legendary taijutsu of the Sage of 6 Paths the Rinnegan. He bore 6 piercings, a metal bar through each ear, 3 studs through the side of its upper nose, and 1 spike stud on each end of the bottom lip. It also had 3 piercings on each wrist, at least 1 on its upper wrist, and some just under his neck. The leader of the Akatsuki face was pale. On his right thumb, he wore a purplish-gray Akatsuki ring that bore the kanji for 0 dot. He also wore a necklace, which was somewhat similar to the one worn by the dot. He was also seen wearing red nail polish. Lastly, he wore the Akatsuki robe. His face was expressionless as always as he stared at all the members of the Akatsuki that gathered today. Now that all of us are gathered here, let us start this meeting with a major problem that arose and would affect us greatly from achieving our shared goal of peace, said Pain as he looked at the members of the Akatsuki. All of them knew too well what the topic is about. You mean that blonde brat, or is it Whitey? Now came the voice of Kisame Hashigek sounding carefree. His jagged teeth could be seen through his wide grin. Pain seemed to ignore Kisame's behavior as he nodded his head. That is correct, we have intended to postpone our hunt for the Jinchuriki for 3 years until we gathered enough resources to start our hunt, but from Zetsu report, the 9-tailed Jinchuriki growth has been quite concerning and could pose us a threat, said Pain, although his face remained impassive that one would think that he was not concerned. The 3-tomo Sharingan opened in the darkness staring at the leader of the Akatsuki. Are we going to capture the 9 tails first? Asked Itachi Uchiha. He was calm and composed. No, said Pain, shocking everyone that he wouldn't prioritize the 9-tailed Jinchuriki capture. Currently the 9-tailed Jinchuriki is returning to the Hidden Leaf village being surrounded by Konoha 11, along with Kakashi Haddock, Kurenai Yuhi, Asuma Saratobi and Might Guy. Our attempt at capturing him would be impossible, said Pain, and everyone realized that a valid point was made as Naruto is well protected. What a shame, I was hoping to get the brat bounty after we managed to extract the 9 tails from him, said Kakuzu, holding on to the bingo book, skimming through the pages until he stopped at Naruto profile, which displayed his bounty that truly befitted someone who is an S+ rank threat. The psychotic white-haired Jashinist licked his side. I will sacrifice him to Jashin-sama, said Haiden as he continued to blabber all sorts of things he will do once he gets his hands on Naruto. Sasori looked rather annoyed to say the least, so this means that we will have to start our hunt early, said Sasori as he looked at the leader who nodded his head. Yes, and the Chunin exam that will take place in Suna will be the perfect opportunity for us to capture the Jinchuriki of the 1-tailed beast, said Pain as Deidara looked pleased knowing that he will be the one sent to deal with this. Although, I've heard rumors that there is a female Uchiha running around the elemental nation, along with the 9-tailed brat, mind explaining? Itachi asked Sasori as he looked at Itachi, who was taken aback. The female Uchiha? Questioned Deidara as he looked at Sasori before looking back at Itachi. That is correct, from one of my spies in Kurigakure I learned that she goes by Kiyomi Uchiha. She is also in a relationship with the 9-tailed brat, said Sasori as he threw a picture towards Itachi, who caught it, revealing a photo of both Kiyomi Uchiha and Naruto on a date together. Kiyomi Itachi thought he had many emotions welled up inside him. He wanted to cry in joy at seeing his younger sister alive, but he remained calm, although everyone could see a small smile on his face. It seems Itachi is smiling. Who is she to make the stoic Itachi smile? Asked Kisame with a large grin. She's my younger sister, said Itachi, shocking everyone, not expecting that Itachi had a sister. I thought you killed your entire clan except for your revenge-obsessed brother, said Deidara as Itachi's face turned expressionless. She was exiled from a young age due to the foolish clan elders. But one more thing, said Itachi, his eyes contorted to Manjikyu Sharingan. Touch a single strand of her hair and I will make sure your death will be painful, said Itachi in a dangerous tone which surprised everyone in the room since he had never shown such hostility even when his younger brother was mentioned. Scary, thought Kisame, his grin still plastered on his face. Who would have thought that our dear Itachi-kun could be such a protective older brother, considering what he did to Sasuke back then? Hisam thought as he glanced at all occupants of the room. Obviously Deidara was quite nervous having confronted Itachi before and lost by a simple genjutsu. The only ones who didn't seem to be fazed were Pain, Konan, Haiden, although the latter was too crazy to even be scared for his life. "Your younger sister is not part of our hunt, as such we have no reason to pursue her," said Pain as he eased Itachi's worry. "What is important is that our plans will be changed drastically," said Pain, watching as everyone paid attention. "I need to warn Jiraiya-sama," thought Itachi as he pocketed his sister's photo inside his Akatsuki coat. "Although, if Kiyomi is anything like our mother, then I pity you, Uzumaki Naruto," thought Itachi with a smirk which was hidden behind his long coat. The large boat could be seen landing on the shores of the wave country as the Konoha contingent descended from the boat. Kiba and Hinata were feeling seasick as they vomited on the ground. Might I, the green beast of Konoha, looked like a beaten beast as he was given a piggyback by Kakashi. The same could be said for Lee, who quickly fell and had to be dragged by Tenten, who seemed to shake her head in annoyance. Naruto and Kiyomi seemed to be unfazed as they walked on the shores of the wave country. Kiyomi had her umbrella opened as she walked next to Naruto, with her arm locked with his, as she looked at the wave country with amazement, having heard the state of the country back in Gedo Rain. "Hey Naruto-kun, look," said Kiyomi excitedly as she pointed at the large imposing bridge to see a large sign which said the Great Naruto Bridge, which surprised Naruto. "So they named the bridge after me. I didn't really think I had done that much for them," said Naruto as a hand met his hair, ruffling it. "You may not know this, Naruto-kun, but you've inspired the villagers to overcome their fears over Gedo and to fight for their freedom," said Kakashi, who gave an eye smile at his student. Naruto let out a small smile. "Thank you, Kakashi-sensei," said Naruto, which made Kakashi quite happy that his student doesn't hate him and still view him as a sensei. "Man, I'm quite jealous. Having a bridge named after you must be pretty nice. Why can't we have anything named after us?" said Kiba, wiping his mouth after having released his morning breakfast. "I don't think you've done anything worth mentioning to warrant having anything named after you, Kiba-san," said Shino, stoically managing to get on Kiba's nerves. "That's enough," said Kurenai, prevented Kiba from retaliating before she looked at Kakashi and Asuma. "We will camp somewhere here, since some of us need to get used to being on flat ground," said Kurenai, motioning to Guy, Lee and some of the still disoriented Konoha 11. "Why not go to Tazuna house? I'm sure he will be willing to let us in," commented Sakura as she looked at Kurenai, then to Kakashi, who seemed to ponder for a few seconds. "You mean the old bridge builder?" asked Asuma as he took a drag of his cigarette before he looked at Kakashi. "Yes, usually I wouldn't want to bother him, but since a lot of us need rest, we will stop by his house to see if his house could handle our numbers," said Kakashi. Over the course of 2 years, the land of waves have finally gotten stable and their economy has been booming more than before, and it was all thanks to the bridge that was built, which had helped improve the trade route, and with the countless alliance that was established, the land of wave was a very popular place to visit. Such miracle was made possible thanks to the efforts of the wave heroes, with Naruto Uzumaki being the one who lit the fire of determination inside the citizens of the wave, inspiring them to fight for their freedom, and the master bridge builder who had opposed Gedo by building the bridge. As such, Tazuna was quickly made the leader of the wave and was greatly respected by the people, with everyone expecting Inari to follow on his grandfather and father figure footsteps, which he had greatly exceeded their expectation. As such, the old worn-out house that used to be the bridge builder house was much more bigger as it was remodeled, and while it's large for 3 individuals, the bridge builder was preparing the house for his grandson. After all, the boy will eventually get married and have children. As such, he was taking precaution to have the boy live a comfortable life. Sakura was the most excited out of them as she went to the door, knocking on it gently, and she didn't have to wait for long as the door opened, revealing the single mother Tsunami. The improved state of the country has done wonders for her health, as her hair was still long blue colored. She wore a short-sleeved pink shirt with the end of the sleeves and the collar being red in color. She also wore a long blue skirt. The single mother's eye laid upon the familiar pink hair and easily recognized her. "Sakura, is that you?" asked Tsunami, easily remembering the pink-haired girl who had deep adoration for the Uchiha boy. "Hello, Miss Tsunami, it's been quite a long time," said Sakura with a smile as the woman smiled as she hugged the pink-haired girl. "It's definitely been a long time, Sakura. Look at you, all grown up and beautiful," said Tsunami as she complimented the pink-haired girl, who blushed from being complimented for her look even though she felt conscious about her small breast size. "Thanks, Miss Tsunami. Also, look who's here." Sakura pointed excitedly at Naruto, who seemed to be quiet. "Can you believe it? This is Naruto," said Sakura as Tsunami looked closely. While Naruto had lost his whiskers that was at one point part of his identity, and his hair became white, although it still had the spiky aspect, and his face structure was still the same. "Naruto, you've really grown. Wow, I barely recognized you," said Tsunami. She may not admit it loudly, but Naruto was definitely an eye-catcher as Naruto let out a small smile. "I received it a lot. It's nice to meet you as well, Miss Tsunami. It seems life has been treating you nicely," said Naruto as he greeted the older woman with a smile in which she smiled as well and opened the door and stepped aside. Please come inside, it wouldn't be good to leave our heroes standing outside like that besides father, and Inari would definitely be happy to see you again. Said Tsunami as the Konoha contingent walked inside the house. Obviously those who weren't part of Team 7 felt rather uncomfortable with the situation and remained mostly quiet to let Team 7 reunite with their old client daughter. The living room was much bigger than before, although everyone could see that despite the large house it was kept clean and dust-free, showing that Tsunami has been maintaining her housewife duties. I hope you're all comfortable, Tsunami said, acknowledging the other Konoha team after being lost in her reunion with Team 7. It's fine, thank you for allowing us in despite our visit being so sudden, said Kurenai appreciatively as Tsunami smiled. It's fine, it might have been a problem to accommodate all of you if father didn't renovate the house, said Tsunami. Kiyomi stood up, let me help you. Kiyomi offered her service to the single mother, in which she was surprised although she wasn't familiar with the girl. Oh, I didn't introduce myself, did I? Said Kiyomi realizing she never introduced herself. My name is Kiyomi Uchiha, nice to meet you, Tsunami-san, said Kiyomi cheerfully. Tsunami smiled. Oh, are you somehow related to Sasuke? Speaking of him, where is he? Tsunami asked as she looked among the Konoha contingent to see the emo boy missing. Yeah, he's kind of my twin brother and he's kind of busy right now. Said Kiyomi, obviously hiding that her brother is a missing ninja. Oh, well tell him to come visit sometimes, although you're much more cheerful than he is. Said Tsunami as Kiyomi gave a small laugh as she walked with Tsunami towards the kitchen, with Sakura and Hinata following them, leaving everyone to sit quietly. It was already mid-afternoon, and the Konoha contingent had been getting comfortable inside the bridge builder house. Their attention was diverted towards the door as it was opened, revealing the bridge builder and Inari, who has grown through a growth spurt. Inari has grown his hair out a bit and donned a similar attire to that of his grandfather, consisting of a grey, sleeveless V-neck shirt, a pair of pants, and carried a towel around his neck. I didn't know we were having guests today, said Tazuna slurring through his words, being unable to recognize the group of Konoha after all. Over the 2 years the one thing that had never changed was his consumption of alcohol, which had increased, given that now he is rich. He was of course supported by his grandson, who seemed to be rather annoyed by his grandfather's lack of moderation, but when he quickly recognized the Konoha contingent he dropped his grandfather on the ground like a sack of potato, ignoring the indignant shout of Tazuna, who fell face first. Naruto Nai, shouted Inari, having idolized Naruto. It didn't take him long to figure out that the white-haired teen was his idol and older brother figure. Naruto opened his arm welcoming the 11-year-old boy who hugged him as he gently rubbed the boy's hair, who seemed to be quite happy. You've grown into a young man, Inari. I do hope your grandfather's bad habit of drinking hasn't rubbed on you. Said Naruto with a small amusement as everyone laughed except for Tazuna, who felt insulted. Don't worry, Naruto Nai, as the man of the house I always made sure that Grandpa doesn't drink too much, after all Grandpa can't be trusted to manage the money properly. Said Inari cheekily, much to everyone's amusement and Tazuna ire at being told that he had no self-control. Dinner's ready, said Tsunami as she peeked out of the kitchen to look at her father and son. It didn't take long for the dishes to be served to the table, as everyone was amazed by the quality of food that was presented. Obviously the one thing that never changed was the several fish-based dishes. Inari sat at Naruto's left side. As for Kiyomi, well, she literally grabbed Hinata's face and pushed her away in favor of sitting at Naruto's right side, much to the Hyuga girl ire, as she hoped to somehow get close to Naruto in their stay, but sadly for her Kiyomi was there and Hinata easily got swatted away like an insignificant bug. It's not like Kiyomi was feeling threatened by the former Hyuga heiress' futile attempt to get close to Naruto. After all, Kiyomi had everything that the former Hyuga heiress had, which is a killer body that makes any men drool, not that she would entertain any of them, since she had dedicated her body, mind and soul to Naruto. But Kiyomi had a lot things that Hinata didn't possess, and that is confidence to keep Naruto interested in her. Not that she doubted Naruto's loyalty, since from what she heard and seen, he was the most loyal person in the Elemental Nation. But aside from that, Naruto is just like his mother in many aspects, which includes his interest in strong women, and Kiyomi knew that she fit the description quite well, although most of her strength was made possible thanks to Naruto training. As for Hinata, well, the girl definitely had a nice breast size for someone her age, but the girl was quite meek, and from Naruto's stories about the girl, she was unable to hold a proper conversation with Naruto without fainting, and if by some miracle she didn't faint, she was a stuttering mess that it was difficult to even understand her to begin with. She pitied Hinata. After all, she knew that with her title as a former heiress must meant that her clan had pretty much revoked her title, because she was unfit to lead the clan. After all, if there are any clan in Konoha that could rival the Uchiha clan in term of inflated ego, would be the Hyuga clan. So in a way she could sympathize with her, but it didn't mean that she would be buddy-buddy with her. She was broken out of her musing when Inari took the lead in the dinner conversation. So Naruto Nai, can you tell me stories about your adventure? asked Inari as Naruto looked at the boy pondering on what he should speak about. Kiba snorted adventure. I would hardly call what he did an adventure. Said Kiba. Obviously Inari was more curious than before. A few months ago I went to the land of water, specifically Kurigakure. The goal of my visit was to merely gain experience that I was sorely lacking as such with the civil war going on, it was the perfect opportunity to grow stronger. Said Naruto as everyone paid attention even Tazuna give his full attention. Kurenai looked at Naruto, I have to say that was a very reckless decision, but considering your achievements there I can't hound you for it, said Kurenai voicing everyone's thoughts. Tazuna was eerily quiet as he let Naruto continue, I've met by chance Kiyomi at the time she was surrounded by multiple jonins from Kurigakure who wanted to obviously eliminate her for her clan Dijutsu, sadly for them I was present at the time and foiled their plans completely. Continued Naruto recounting his first meeting with his girlfriend, something which made Ino excited and Hinata curious as to what had made Kiyomi different from her. Yeah, I remember that day you pretty much had them run away after you killed 5 of them with one single attack. It was really hot. Said Kiyomi, grinning as she dreamily remembered being saved by her knight. 5 Jonin-level shinobi were killed by just one attack. Was the thought that ran through Niji's head. He obviously had a hard time believing this, although Naruto exploits had spoken loudly for him as such he believed her words. While Inari might have been disturbed with the fact that his idol killed but being much more older and mature had made him understand the choice that his idol had made and given the fact that the land of waves were at one point under the mercy of the tyrant Geto who killed without hesitation, he had come into terms that there are people that needed to be killed and those 5 shinobi were prying on a girl. Kiyomi, as you have already guessed, turned out to be the twin sister of Sasuke Uchiha, our teammate said Naruto slowly making sure to avoid mentioning the current status of his rogue teammate seeing as the water country state was unsafe, I've offered her the choice to join me which she accepted after she learned that I knew her brother, it was then that I had decided to train her and she had exceeded my expectation. Said Naruto, surprising the shinobi present in the room. So you trained her, that's a surprise said Asuma taking a drag of his cigarette as Kiyomi smiled and nodded her head yeah, I got to tell you Naruto-kun is a slave driver just like his mother, but since there were things that were beyond his area of expertise, such as the ninjutsu portion he had taken to just teaching me some of the hand signs that he had memorized from observing other shinobi and even helped me create my own jutsu, said Kiyomi surprising everyone even more. Creating jutsu? Asked Kakashi incredulously he wasn't unfamiliar with the concept of creating jutsu since his Chidori was his creation, but he knew that something like that was beyond a mere genin level, even his own sensei had taken 3 years to create his A-rank jutsu the Rasengan, and even then it was incomplete. Yes answered Kiyomi with a smile on her face, I do admit the process was quite difficult, but Naruto-kun had helped me in the process we had to first understand the mechanism of each hand signs and its function before we cracked each fire jutsu that we knew and tried to see the similarities between them to replicate the same process in the creation of the new jutsu. Said Kiyomi as everyone was astonished. We also had to know how to properly knead the chakra to get the result we seek, there were a lot of trials and errors, but she ended up being successful all on her, I've merely given her pointers. Naruto proudly makes Kiyomi feel immense pride in herself. Tazuna chugged down some of the sake in his mouth, to this day I still don't understand those ninja things you shinobi do. Said Tazuna he was obviously unhappy since he was pretty much clueless on what was being said. Shino looked at the bridge builder Tazuna-san, jutsu creation is a very difficult task to achieve. Let me ask you a question. Can anybody just walk and build complex bridges right from the get-go? Said Shino making the Tazuna and Inari to ponder on what was said. To build a bridge requires a lot of process like building the bridge foundation, it's a very complex process that many amateur builders fall into. Said Tazuna, having understood everything that was said. Jutsu creation is like a bridge Mr. Tazuna said Niji as he opened his lavender eyes to stare at Tazuna and his family one wrong mistake and the jutsu would backfire, which means that the bridge will fall, that's how delicate the process is and how amazing that they had managed to achieve something like that. Said Niji as the shinobi present in the room nodded their head in agreement. Kakashi's lone eye opened as he looked at Kiyomi. How many jutsu have you created so far Kiyomi-san? Asked Kakashi curiously which nobody could fault him as Kiyomi raised her hand channeling some of her chakra which led her hands to be encased in smoldering flames, its heat rivaling even a C-rank fire jutsu. Everyone watched in astonishment. We learned in our travels that I had a high affinity for fire that far surpasses any Uchiha, so Naruto-kun told me to take advantage of this by creating and developing my clan Taijutsu to make it more devastating, which led to the creation of the Interceptor Flaming Fist, which is basically my own unique Taijutsu. Said Kiyomi proudly as the fire quickly went out. That's ingenious came the voice of Kurenai, feeling immense pride at seeing another Kunoichi prove to all the males in the room that Kunoichi are not useless. If you could expel the fire from your fist you will be literally bending fire to your will. added Sakura, and then she thought of Kiyomi learning Tsunade's super strength, and it made her shiver in fear. Actually, this was also my second jutsu that we worked on. It's actually quite chakra draining, so I don't usually make it a habit of using it a lot, but it helped me quite a lot, especially when being surrounded. Said Kiyomi, rubbing the back of her head, remembering the multiple destruction she brought in her wake by that simple jutsu. Wow, that's amazing, Kiyomi ni, said Inari, obviously astonished and amazed by what the ninja could do. Kiyomi obviously smiled brightly, thanks, although it was all thanks to Naruto-kun's help. Said Kiyomi as Hinata, who sat quietly, felt a pang in her heart, wondering if she could have had such a bond with Naruto had she come out with her feelings early. That aside, how did you two tie the knot? Asked Ino mischievously, her eyes glinting with curiosity, wanting to milk all information out of them. Kiyomi blushed in embarrassment, remembering how they had started their relationship, while Naruto turned his face away, also embarrassed. Ooh, you two are blushing, this means something juicy happened. Said Ino excitedly as Kakashi started to let out a small perverted giggle, which he was joined by Tazuna as well, much to Kurenai and Tsunami ire. Well, our relationship started in the oddest way, said Kiyomi as she twiddled with her fingers. You see, I had a crush on Naruto-kun, but I didn't know how to come out with my feelings, so I kinda decided to confess and kiss him while sleeping, but it turns out that he was awake the whole time since he was a light sleeper and ended up hearing everything. Luckily he had the same feelings for me, and that's how our relationship started. Said Kiyomi as everyone looked astonished while Hinata was even more jealous than before. I should probably have Jiraiya write a plot about this in his next Icha, muttered Kakashi to himself, although sadly for him he was heard and his thoughts were not appreciated as he received the stinking eyes from both Kurenai and Tsunami. This is so beautiful, I wish you both happiness, said Tenten, having been quiet for so long, as she received an appreciative gaze from Kiyomi and Naruto. This is romantic, tell me more, said Ino, wanting more juicy details. I think we've diverted from the main topic, came the lazy voice of Shikamaru as he probably sat, although his posture was slouch, showing how tired he is. We were talking about Naruto and his troublesome adventure in Kurigakure. Said Shikamaru as everyone seemed to realize that they had indeed diverted from the topic, and Inari gave him an appreciative look. You're right, anyways, after training her I've sent her to deal with small camps that belong to Yagura forces to help her get comfortable and gain experience. It was after we made a name for ourselves that the rebel army led by Mei Terumi had reached for us. Said Naruto as everyone gave Naruto their undivided attention. So what happened? Asked Guy in an uncharacteristically serious tone as he looked at Naruto, who let out a sigh. Flashback, that was another one of Yagura camps that Naruto had easily disposed of, but this time around Kiyomi had taken to helping him in the elimination as she took the other half of the camp, and with her newly created jutsu, she was able to make quick work of the enemy forces. Naruto looked at Kiyomi, who had both her hands in her pocket, as he let out a small frown as he walked towards her and pulled her right arm to see a few burns. It was obvious that the jutsu that she created had given her burns as he looked at Kiyomi, who averted her eyes in shame. His expression softened as he pecked her burned knuckles gently. Kiyomi, listen, I'm not angry, I'm just worried. Please don't use Heiken for now until we could be sure that it didn't have any effects on your chakra coils. Said Naruto softly as Kiyomi nodded her head as she wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck, seeking comfort in which Naruto had offered. Sorry, said Kiyomi, her voice muffled, feeling relieved that Naruto was not angry by her reckless action. It's fine, although I have to admit that was a nice technique, Kiyomi. I'm sure after you overcome its negative effects you will be a force to be reckoned with. Said Naruto with a proud smile as her cheeks reddened by the compliment. Separating from the hug, Naruto started walking towards the tents to look for some of the supplies that didn't get caught in the crossfire. It was a habit that he and Kiyomi have been doing, which is looting the camps that they have destroyed. It's not like the dead will get to take their possession with them to the afterlife, so he will make the most of what he could find. After sealing everything in a scroll, he stopped and looked at one of the trees hidden by the thick mist. Are you gonna keep spying on us the whole time? Asked Naruto. Under any circumstances he would have struck the enemy, but the stalker didn't have any ill intent. He didn't have to wait for long because a middle-aged man with blue hair, which is styled in a moused-up manner. His left eye was blue and his right eye was covered with an eye patch. He wore a talisman in each ear with a kanji for a humble form of to hear, show written on them twice on each side. He also wore the standard striped gray suit with a green haori that had white trimmings that stop halfway down over them. The man was obviously flanked with a small group of shinobi, but they all were fidgeting nervously as they kept their head low. They have seen the massacre of one of Yagura's camps made by 2 people, and they did it with quite ease. My name is Ao, I'm one of Lady Terumi's bodyguards. We didn't come here to fight you, honorable swordsman. Said Ao respectfully. So I am an honorable swordsman? Mused Naruto with a little hidden amusement, but kept a stoic expression. I am quite aware of that, I don't sense any ill intention, so I have no reason to attack you or your shinobi. Naruto said, making the group of shinobi to sigh in relief. I'm glad to hear that, the last thing we want is to fight. Instead we came here because Lady May had heard tales of your achievements in destroying Yagura camps and wanted to extend an offer for you and your female companion as well," said Ao, making sure to not offend the powerful swordsman. "Most likely they want us to join the rebel army." Kiyomi thought she knew the significance of the name of Mei Terumi. She is the leader of the rebel army, possessing not just one but two Kekkei Genkai, and is a candidate for the seat of Mizukage. Naruto looked at Kiyomi, who gave him a nod before he looked at Ao. "Very well, we're willing to hear your leader's offer. Please lead the way," said Naruto as Ao nodded in relief. "There is also a condition for both of you to come with us. We need to cover your eyes. We apologize if that would offend you both, but it's just our protocol since we're quite secretive of our main base," said Ao, this time a little nervous along with his shinobi. Naruto looked at them with an intense gaze, seeing as they got scared before he sighs. "I understand," said Naruto simply, which surprised them that he was willing to cooperate even though he could just annihilate them. "Thank you for cooperating," said Ao as they proceeded to cover both of their eyes, and then they quickly took off, being mostly helped by the shinobi so as to not trip. Not that Naruto needed help since his senses were sharp even when his eyes were covered. It didn't take long for them as they quickly reached the base before they untied the cloth covering both Naruto and Kiyomi's eyes. "We apologize once more for the inconvenience," said Ao once more before he gestured for them to follow him, which they easily complied. The main base of the rebel army operation looked to be a rundown city. It was neither big nor small. He was already aware that the rebel army had managed to take some of the camps that he and Kiyomi had destroyed, which had made their advance towards overtaking the capital of Kurigakure much quicker. Some of the rebel army shinobi could be seen walking on the streets to make sure that no Yagura shinobi could sneak inside their main base of operation and maintain a public image. After all, there were civilians in the midst, so seeing some of those shinobi walking around filled them with a sense of safety. Some of those shinobi noticed his presence, and it was obvious that some had recognized him. Some of them were downright scared, and some of them were filled with immense hope, seeing as Naruto was accompanying Ao, which meant that their chances of defeating Yagura had skyrocketed. It was then that murmurs filled the street. It didn't take long for Ao to stand in front of an average-sized building. "We've arrived," said Ao as he walked inside the building, and Naruto knew that the building was filled with multiple Anbu-level shinobi. What a cunning woman. Nobody would expect the leader of the rebel army to hide in such a small rundown building, thought Naruto. He could see seals written on the walls, which was probably a seal that kept the building from falling down easily. Standing in front of a dead end, Ao proceeded to go through several hand signs before the walls started to slowly crumble, revealing a long corridor that doesn't seem to end. Taking a one-hand sign, the Genjutsu was broken, revealing a much clean and decorative hallway which was painted with the color blue. Standing in front of the door, he slowly knocked on the door waiting for an answer. "Come in, Ao," came the melodic voice of the leader of the rebel army, Mei Terumi. Opening the door, the room looked like a watered-down version of the Hokage office, but it also looked like it was her living quarter, as the couch had a pillow and a cover. Said leader was quite beautiful if Naruto was being honest. She was a tall, slender woman with fair skin. She has green eyes and ankle-length, auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one covering her right eye, and 2 are long, crossing each other on her bust, just below her chin. She wears a long-sleeved dark blue dress that folds just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zipper and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wears a mesh armor that covers slightly more of her upper body than her dress. She also wears a skirt in the same color as her dress and, underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wears a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left, along with high-heeled sandals, shin guards reaching up over her knees, dark blue nail polish on her fingers and toes, and is usually shown with purple lipstick. The leader of the rebel army let out a seductive smile which obviously left Kiyomi quite annoyed, knowing that Mei Terumi is a woman who wanted to quickly get married, so she will obviously take interest in Naruto once he entered the room. "Hello, my name is Mei Terumi, the leader of the rebel army. I thank you for accepting my invitation, but I'm quite surprised that the one who has been making a name for himself in Kurigakure was a teenager, a handsome teenager that is," said Mei, adding with a seductive tone. "I would like to know the name of such a fine young man," asked Mei politely, and while Naruto may have found her flirting attempt a little bit much, but he knew that she was a leader. "My name is Naruto Yu, and next to me is my girlfriend Kiyomi Uchiha," introduced Naruto politely. "So what does the leader of the rebel army want from me?" asked Naruto with a calm tone which made Mei take a serious look, knowing that Naruto's decision will affect the tide of the war and she intends to do what's best for her people. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.